Okay, I'll do one more here. First thing we want to do, we'll see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll just have to type them in. Okay, copy, Control C. Oh, you got to get this data into Excel. Control C and Control V. Did it work? It did work. Okay. All right. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 data. Okay. All right. 11 pieces of data. Okay. Let's go to work. Minimum, that's easy. What's the smallest number here? 8. Okay. The maximum, that's easy. That's 17. Okay. So those two, we'll just do those first. Let's do Q1. Q1 would be formulas, more functions, statistical, quartile, .exe, and highlight these numbers, and just do 1. And so Q1 is 10. And again, if you don't know what quartiles mean and what I'm doing, watch my prior couple, my recording from yesterday's class and my video I sent out this morning. Q2, which is the median. We'll do median. M-E-D-I-A-N. The median. Formulas, more functions, statistical. Median. Median is 11. And Q3, do the same thing we did as Q1, except we just put 3 instead of 1. More functions, statistical. Make sure when you do the quartiles, use the quartile.exe, not the INC, the exe. Okay, make sure you use that one. All right. 3. Okay. 13. All right. Max is 17. The IQR, I don't think I went over this in the class Monday because it didn't come up. The IQR is just simply, it stands for the interquartile range, interquartile range. And that's just simply Q3, Q3 minus Q1. Okay. All right. So the IQR is equal to Q3, which is 13, minus 11, which is 2. Okay. All right. Or no, I'm sorry, wait, 13 minus 10. 13 minus 10. I was going to say, how did I miss that one? Which is 3. Sorry about that. Just did the wrong number. So the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. Q3 is 13. Q1 is 10. 13 minus 10 is 3. Okay. As I'm sure we all know. Where'd my Excel sheet go? Oh, there it is. All right, there we go. Okay. Now, outliers, okay? Outliers in any set of data, all right, let's just say I had 5 speed limits. I'm clocking speeds. I'll just say I'm clocking speeds of cars, and I'm trying to get some information on cars going down the street, their speeds. Let's just say there was 35, 38, 42, 47, 39, 36, and 85, okay? 85 is obviously way, way higher than any other set of data in that data, okay? And let's just say there was somebody going 8 miles an hour. 8 is obviously much, much lower than all of the data. Those are considered outliers, and sometimes when statisticians are doing statistical analysis, they will disregard the outliers. Any number that is way lower than most of the data or any data that is way higher than most of the data. So how do you figure out what data would be an outlier or not? Okay, so for the lower number, anything below a certain number is considered an outlier. How do I get that certain number? For the lower number, it's Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay? All right? For the lower. For the upper, it's Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So it's Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. All right. Okay, so for the lower, for this data, it would be Q1, which is 10, minus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 3. All right. Equals, so 10. So on your calculator, just hit so 10 minus 1.5 times 3, and I get 5.5, which is the answer right here, okay? So in other words, if there were a piece of data in here that were lower than 5.5, it would be considered an outlier. There isn't, so there aren't any numbers that are much lower or considered an outlier as far as lower goes. Let's see if there's one for an upper, okay? Q3, which is 13, plus 1.5 times 3. So on a calculator, 13 plus 1.5 times 3, and I get 17.5. Okay, which is my answer here. All right. There are no data that's more than 17.5 or lower than 5.5. So there are no outliers. That does not exist. Okay. And if there so if there were outliers, you'd put them there. So in other words, if there was an 18 or a 19 or 4 or 3, you would list those outliers here and say those are outliers. In other words, then it's up to whoever is doing the analysis to determine whether they want to include the outliers in their data or not, but you at least identify them, and that's how you identify outliers. There are no outliers, so in other words, all the data is pretty consistent, with each other. All right, hope that helps.